بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بسيدنا ومولانا أمير المؤمنين، والحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها. The first of our salawat and honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allahumma salli. The third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The story of the people of Thamud is one of the most fascinating stories in the Holy Quran. And indeed is a story of the utmost importance, one which requires an in-depth examination. For it is a story which very much relates to our everyday life. A story from which many lessons may be learned and indeed many examples may be derived. As we know, the Quran mentions a number of nations within its chapters. Many prophets were sent towards these nations. You find, for example, within the Quran, Prophet Hud being sent to the people of Ad, or Prophet Shu'aib to the people of Midian, or Prophet Salih to the people of Thamud. Or you hear of the stories of prophets who may have gone to greater regions, such as the Prophet Musa alayhi salam. The aim of mentioning these nations is for us to take the lessons and the standpoints of the prophets in relation to each of these nations. Some of these nations were extremely troublesome for the prophets. Some of them were religious once and then changed. Some were never religious. Some were never religious but were willing to change towards the end. And you find that when you read the Holy Quran only mentions to us 20-odd prophets and their nations. Does that mean that these prophets didn't go further wide? In the idea that some people come and ask the question that all your prophets in the Quran only went to the Middle East. What was wrong with the rest of the world? Well, the prophets who are mentioned in the Quran, if we were to say that there's 25 prophets mentioned in the Quran, we do not know the story of the other 123,975. For all we know, with those other prophets of God, God mentions himself in the Quran that to every nation we sent a warner. Every nation was sent a particular messenger with a message to bring the people towards a holistic way of life. That's why sometimes you may hear of certain religions today who may have originally been visited by a prophet of God. Yes, their messages may have been distorted later, but prophets were sent to each and every nation. The role of the Muslim is to examine each of these nations and to seek to gain lessons from them. If you were to ask many Muslims in the world today, can you tell me about the people of Ad? They'll say, to tell you the truth, I've never even heard of them in some cases. Can you tell me about the people of Midian? I don't know nothing about the people of Midian. Can you tell me about the people of Thamud? I haven't heard much about the people of Thamud. The problem is when the Quran mentions all of these nations and the Muslims do not bring these nations to life. Because history can either be a science which is dead or a science which is alive. As in, if you were to look at history as a dead science, you imagine history as being something predetermined. You have no choice or no role within history. You just watch the course of events develop. Whereas the religion of Islam said history is a living science. Meaning what? Meaning on the first level that history is a science from when you examine it Many lessons may be learned from history. Number two, you find that many events are repeated. And you find, number three, that you can be a source of changing history. These are three very important points. What do we mean? We mean, number one, that the Quran tells us that when we give you the story of a nation that came before you, we are giving you the story not so that you simply say, that's a nice story. No. So that you are able to gain from the lessons of that story. As the Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ سُنَنٍ. There have come before you trends in history. Your role is to study that trend. That's number one. Number two, history repeats itself. Something that may have happened historically may come back once again. Your role is to learn the first time from the lesson in order that when it repeats itself, you are ready for it. On the third level, you are a figure in history who can change history. Do you know there are many who believe that you have no role in changing history whatsoever? The Quran said, we will not change a group of people until they change from themselves. Meaning what? Meaning that you can actually change the course of history if you want to. Therefore, when you come to examine the story of the people of Thamud, all of these three areas you can learn from. Number one, there are so many lessons to be learned from the story of the people of Thamud. Number two, history repeats itself using the people of Thamud. Why? The Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alayhi, has a beautiful hadith where he tells our first Imam, he says to him, the worst of the killers of the ancients is the killer of the camel of Salih. And the worst of the killers of the latter will be those who kill you. Notice a question arises here from this hadith. What has the killer of the camel of Salih and the people of Thamud got anything to do with the killer of Amir al-Mu'mineen? There must be some sort of correlation here. That's what we're going to seek to examine tonight. That the people of Thamud, how did history repeat itself with Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen? Let's examine this by number one, looking at the history of the people of Thamud. Number two, why did they kill the camel of Salih? Number three, Amir al-Mu'mineen, why was he killed and what was the relationship with the people of Thamud? And number four, how comes Amir al-Mu'mineen is buried in Najaf even though he was struck in the mosque of Kufa, which is miles away? Let's examine this and seek to dissect the topic in depth. The people of Thamud, as we mentioned, were a people mentioned in the Quran. They were known to be from the successive generations of the people of Ad. As you know, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the people of Ad in many places. Sometimes He mentions the people of Ad and Thamud in the same place. You find, for example, the people of Ad, where do you find them mentioned? In Surah Al-Fajr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَالْفَجْرِ وَلَيَالٍ عَشْرٍ وَالشَّفْعِ وَالْوَتْرِ وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَسْرِ هَلْ فِي ذَلِكَ قَسَمٌ لِذِي حِجْرٍ أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ فَعَلَ رَبُّكَ بِعَادٍ. Have you seen what your Lord done with the people of Ad? The people of Ad, Prophet Hud had gone to them. They were extremely prosperous people, very wealthy, and they had these grand houses. They had the grand palaces. They even tried to build heaven on earth. That their leader Shaddad said to the Prophet Hud, he said, you promised the people the heaven? I'll make heaven on earth. What's the point of your Lord's heaven when I can create the most beautiful heaven on this earth? And it's true, He created a heaven on earth. And on the day He came to open the gates of this heaven, the angel of death came to take his soul away. That Allah teaches you an example that you can build as much as you want to build in this world. What are you going to do when death reaches you? How are you going to come forward and stop death? When it comes to take you, it will take you. The successive generations of Hud who remained alive, even though Hud were destroyed, were the people of Thamud. The tribes of Thamud were tribes who lived between where? Who lived between the area of Medina and Syria. They lived between these areas of Medina and Syria. And until today, many archaeologists say that if you go to the northwestern regions of Saudi Arabia, you'll see some of their houses are still there on the Rocky Mountains. Because the people of Thamud were very prosperous people who had houses which were carved out of the Rocky Mountains. Grand houses. They at the same time as well had great water reserve, great water resources. They had beautiful fertile land. They had a great amount of sheep, a great amount of cattle. In other words, they were people who were very prosperous. You found that these people who were prosperous were living at a time when each and every one of them was making a great amount of money within the industries which they worked. What happened was that while they were prosperous, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He want from you when you are prosperous? Number one, He wants you to be thankful. Quran says, when you thank Allah, He will increase your prosperity, without a doubt. The more a person gives shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase his prosperity. Number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also wants to see that from that generosity, from that sustenance, that prosperity that I've shown to you, I want you to give it back to the people. Don't be stingy. When I've given you water, when I've given you fertile land, when I've given you grazing animal, do not be stingy. Try and share it out with the people. The people of Thamud were people who, although had this land, the first act which made Prophet Salih, who was the prophet amongst them, the first act which made Prophet Salih speak out against them, what was it? It was the act that they were oppressive towards the poor of their community. How? They had this great water reserve. The poor of the community wanted a share of this reserve. They wanted to take some of the water. The rich of the community said, no, that water belongs to us. Nobody can come and have any of the water except the rich of the community. You see, a question arises here. In an Islamic economic system, what is the position of water? Please listen and bear with me carefully on this point. In Islamic economics, if you are a student of economics here, what is the position of water as a natural resource? Where does it fit in the Islamic economic system? Does it fit under public property, state property, or private property? You find Islamic economic system, what does it say? It says when you build a state, the state has to be divided into three. Public property, state property, and private property. Private property means my right for individual ownership. I can individually own that which I want. State property is that which the state acquires and then shares out to the different classes, or to the different members of the community. Water as a natural resource in Islamic economics comes under public property. Which means what? Which means you can't deny a single human being in an Islamic economic system of their supply of water. Please understand this point. In Islamic economics, water cannot be denied to any human being. Why? Because the state is the guardian of the natural resources. Water is a natural resource. The state has to be able to supply water as a basic necessity to the human being. Because we know very well the human being cannot survive without this liquid. The human being requires water as a natural resource. A state cannot come and say, we have the water but the poor cannot have. In Islamic economics, a state says water is public property. Have you seen sometimes in parks there are water fountains? Even in this country. If you go to a park, you press a button, a water fountain. You even go to a university, you press a button, a water fountain. Because water in many economic systems was seen as a piece of public property. Under the guardianship of the state, it can't be owned by anyone. It may be franchised, but it can't be owned by a human being. You could give it out for different people to supply. That's why I remember Amir al-Mu'minin at Saffin, when he saw Muawiyah's army with the water, and Amr ibn al-As and Muawiyah would not give him any water. So Imam Ali said to his soldiers, go and win that water back. They went and they won the water. When Muawiyah and Amr ibn al-As's army became thirsty, they came forward and said, listen, we had the water. We don't have the water anymore. Can we take the water off you? The companions of Imam Ali thought, no way, as in you didn't give us the water, why should we give you? But Amir al-Mu'minin is higher than his companions. And he looked at them and he said, no, give them the water. He said, why? He said, I can't bear to see a horse thirsty, let alone a human being. That water is a natural resource which is public property for the whole state. The people of Thamud, the first act which made Prophet Salih speak out against them was the fact that they were denying a basic right like water to the state. The second act which made Prophet Salih speak out against them was their idol worshipping. Someone asked the question, Sayyid Ammar in the last few nights has told us about many nations who worship idols. How does a human being get to that level of having to worship an idol? The human being loves to touch that which he believes in. A human being, he wants to use his senses. If you tell him to believe in that which is unseen, he finds it difficult. Even though he'll look around this room today and not see electricity that's necessarily moving. Even though he may not see the waves of an X-ray machine, but he'll tell you, yes, I believe that there are waves and there is electricity and current moving. If you tell the human being there is a Lord who exists but you cannot see, he'll say, what do you mean? Everything I see, everything I believe in must be seen. You notice in history, many human beings have to touch something for them to determine its reality. Even with the followers of Ahlul Bayt today, you find that they have to touch that darih when they go near the mosques of Ahlul Bayt. If you tell him, say your salams from outside, he'll say, no way, I have to touch that darih, then I feel comfortable. You find that the human being wants that. But the difference with the darih and an idol is the darih, you haven't come to worship the darih. You've come to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the name of the person in the darih. Whereas an idol, you've come and you bow yourself before the idol and you actually believe that that idol will help you. You find what? You find that they were idol worshippers. Prophet Salih came to them, he said to them, look, as for the issue of water, you've denied the poor water. As for the issue of the idols, you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you know about His existence. They looked at him and they said, Salih, we used to respect you in our community. You are a good man. What are you doing speaking out? He said, it's not that I'm speaking out because I want to lose my friendship. I noticed many of you are now caring more about the idol than you are caring about the Lord who created the heavens and the earth. You must reflect upon yourself. They said to him, Salih, if you don't stay quiet, then you'll be in trouble. At the beginning, brothers and sisters, they said, you'll be in trouble. In a few moments, I'll show you how you destroy a message alone. I'll explain. You find that they said to him, you'll be in trouble. He kept speaking out. He kept speaking out until they said to him, Salih, very well. You say to us there's a God we can't see? He said, yes. You say to us that this God is the all-powerful? He said, yes. They said, you see all those mountains? Because they used to all live on the mountains, all rocky mountains. You see all of those mountains? He said, yes. They said to him, do you see the one which is alone over there? He said, yes, I see it. They said, if your God exists, let a she-camel be born out of that mountain. He said, what do you mean? They said, we'll believe in your God. We'll leave all the idols alone. A camel, let it be born coming out of that mountain. He said to them, so if I actually ask my Lord to allow a she-camel to be born from that mountain, all of you will believe in the message of Allah? They said, all of us will believe. He said, very well. You see, someone asks the question, how is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to create a she-camel from a mountain? That's ridiculous. You're the same human being who came from a piece of dust, weren't you? Where did you come from? You originally came from a piece of dust. Forget the human that came from dust. You're the same human who believed that a stick one day became a snake. Forget the snake from the stick. You're the same human who one day saw Ismail and then suddenly saw a sheep in front of him. What, that sheep's mother came and carried it and said, here you go? That sheep was put there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He wants something, He says, kun fayakun. Be, and it will be. If these people are saying to me, they want a she-camel from a mountain is hard for me. Let's let a she-camel come out of that mountain. A she-camel emerges from the mountain. Then after that, the she-camel has its offspring walking with it. They looked at it, they said, this is unbelievable. I said, maybe Salih is true. Maybe he's right. That we have to believe in his Lord. What the she-camel, what would it do? One day it would drink water. The next day they would have access to the water. It's as if Allah was teaching them to learn how to share. Because some of us human beings can be very miserly in our life. We don't like sharing what Allah has given us. You ask someone, share from that which Allah has given you. I'm sorry, I don't have time to share anything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did He do? He gave them a she-camel. The she-camel will drink water one day, they drink from the water another. But the she-camel was an added bonus for them. Why? The she-camel would be able to provide them with milk that the whole community would be able to be looked after. Even that she-camel, when it would walk, the sheep and the cattle would run away because they've never seen an animal that large in its life. So they would run away. That she-camel will provide with milk. You would think the people would be grateful because Prophet Salih said, what? He said, this is a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you have a sign of Allah on earth, do not kill it. Protect the sign of Allah when it's with you on earth. He said to them what? He said to them, فَقَالَ لَهُمْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ نَاقَةَ اللَّهِ. This is the camel which Allah has bought for you as a sign. They came forward, many of them started believing in Salih's message. They came, they said, Prophet Salih, we believe in what you say. But there were always a few mischief makers like in any community. And the ahadith tell us, in the people of Thamud, there were how many mischief makers? There were 9 mischief makers. These mischief makers in the people of Thamud, they noticed everybody's suddenly following Salih. Many are changing from Salih's message. So what did they start doing? They started coming out first saying what? Our sheep and our cattle are being scared by your she-camel. He said, are you serious? A few days ago you said to me, if your Lord exists, let a she-camel come out. I let you have a she-camel. And now you're telling me our sheep and our cattle are scared? As in, haven't you seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show you a miracle right in front of you? It wasn't so much about the miracle. Sometimes when the human being loses his status, he doesn't care what happens around him. The human being, when he's losing his status, is the worst of creations. Because he doesn't care how many signs Allah has given him. It goes in one ear and out of the other. He said to them, what do you mean it's scaring your she-camel? They said, the she-camel scares our sheep, our cattle. We don't want the she-camel here. Prophet Salih warned them again. He said, this she-camel is a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not kill the she-camel, protect it. From these 9 who were making mischief, one of them, and only one, was the cause of the instigation of the killing of the she-camel. His name, bear with me in this part. His name was Qaddar. This Qaddar at the beginning had no involvement. But there was a lady he loved, but he couldn't marry. And her name was Qutam. Her name was Qutam. He loved this lady, but there was no way he could marry her. She was jealous of Prophet Salih, the fact that Prophet Salih is gaining so much popularity. She came to him. She said, "Oh Qaddar." He said, "Yes." She said, "Qaddar, if you kill the camel of Salih, although I know it's a sign from Allah, I'll let you have me and you can marry me straight away." He said, "Is that it?" She said, "Yes, that's the only dowry. My dowry is that you kill the camel of Salih." This Qaddar led a group of people in the middle of the night. Salih's she-camel was sleeping. The Quran says, كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودُ بِطَغْوَاهَا إِذَا انْبَعَثَ أَشْقَاهَا. Ashqaha means what? Means the worst of the people of Thamud was the one who went and killed what? Went and killed the camel of Salih. The camel had stood up. It noticed these people who were coming. The camel wondered what's going on here. It's the middle of the night. It tried to protect its offspring. They threw something on its neck. They managed to sever the neck of the camel. Then they killed the offspring. They came to Prophet Salih. They said, "Now are you against us?" He said, "I told you, do not kill the sign of Allah on earth." That camel was a sign of Allah. Who is it that killed? The person Qaddar said, "I have killed it." Quran mentioned it in بَعَثَ أَشْقَاهَا. The worst of them was the one who killed the she-camel. Prophet Salih said, "I warn you of a punishment that will come unless there is a repentance." Do you know what they said to him? They said something beautiful. I never want you to remember this verse because history repeats itself even on this verse. In Surah 27 verse 48, "Then Salih, we will kill you and your relatives." Because sometimes if you kill one man alone, his message may continue with his relatives. So you continue by destroying his relatives, isn't it? When a prophet says to you, "I don't ask from you anything except love for my relatives," it's because he knows that even though I'm going to die, they're going to try and kill them, because he knows the message will continue through the relatives, isn't it? You found that they told Salih, "We will not just kill you, we'll kill your relatives as well." Prophet Salih said to them, "Repent, change. You've killed the camel, the sign of Allah." They didn't change until they were seized and the whole nation was destroyed. You find, why were they destroyed? The overflow of sexual desire in one person. He had this lady by the name of Qutam. She tempted him. She said to him, "My mahar, if you want to marry me, is to kill the camel of Salih, is to finish the camel off. You notice, you ask yourself the question, why did Rasulullah say the worst of the killers of the ancients is the killer of the camel of Salih, but the worst of the killers of the latter is the killer of Amir al-Mu'mineen? Why? Why would Rasulullah connect the two together? The connection is extremely clear. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen many times in his life would refer to the people of Thamud. For example, in Dua Mashlul, a dua which many of us recite when a person is paralyzed or they are ill, Imam Ali mentions the people of Ad and Thamud, how they were seized by a thunderbolt from Allah. In Sermon 200 of Nahj al-Balagha, Imam Ali mentions it took one person in the tribe of Thamud to cause the destruction of a whole nation. Isn't that true? As in, sometimes don't think just because you are good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may not come forward with tests. Sometimes you may find if the good do not speak out against injustice, Allah will keep sending His tests. In Sermon 200 of Nahj al-Balagha, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen mentioned that one person from the people of Thamud caused the destruction of the whole nation. But in Sermon 180 of Nahj al-Balagha, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, in reference to the Khawarij who fought him at Nahrawan, mentioned, "O Allah, take your mercy away from the Khawarij in the way you took your mercy away from the people of Thamud." Many references came from Imam Ali about Thamud, but many people asked, why is Ali ibn Abi Talib constantly referring to the people of Thamud? Because history repeats itself. How? Look at the story of how Amir al-Mu'mineen was killed, and the names of the people are exactly the same, and the reasons are exactly the same. Look at the story. Look how history repeats itself. Always study history because it could come back to repeat itself with you. When Nahrawan finished, Amir al-Mu'mineen knew he had enemies within the state. He knew it very well. With some of these enemies, some of them did not know really about his character. Many of you have heard the story of when he came back from Nahrawan. He saw a lady standing outside and she's stirring a bowl with some hot water. He said to her, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" She said, "I'm just stirring this bowl. May God curse Ali ibn Abi Talib." He said to her, "Sorry?" She said, "May God curse Ali ibn Abi Talib." He said to her, "Why did you say that?" She said, "That man took my brother and my husband with him to Nahrawan. He came back alive and they are dead. If I see him one day, I'll make it clear to him what I feel." He said to her, "Well, I'm sure he's not like that, nor was that his intention. But what's your situation now?" She said, "Look at me, I'm a mother with orphans. I'm a mother with orphans with no one to protect." He looked at her, what did he say? He said to her, "Do not worry. Can I help you in any way? What are you doing stirring the bowl?" She said, "I'm stirring the bowl because I'm making them think there's food when there isn't any food whatsoever." He said, "I'll come in every day and I'll help you make bread for your children." I tell you, if someone cursed you, would you do that? But he knew Nahrawan, bad rumors came out, which weren't true about him. He would help her every day, until one day the daughter's coming home, she sees him leaving. She can't believe, Ali ibn Abi Talib came to our house? Amir al-Mu'mineen came to our house? So she went straight to her mother. "Mother, did you see who was at our house?" She goes, "I don't know, a very nice man. A man who comes every morning to help me, but I do not know who he is." She said, "Mother, that's Ali ibn Abi Talib." She said, "That's Ali ibn Abi Talib?" "Yes." She said, "I've been cursing him in front of him every morning, but never once has he been rude to me. He just shows me the best of respect." She went running to him, "Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, forgive me. I did not mean what I said. I did not know about your character." He replied, "Do not worry. I only ask you to ask Allah to forgive me, just in case I hurt you. I didn't mean to hurt your husband or your brothers. They came on the path of haqq with me on Nahrawan. Allah will reward them." There was that group of people who didn't know. But then there was the other leaders of Nahrawan, the Khawarij. They met up in Mecca. When they met up, they said, "We have to kill the main leaders who are the cause of our trouble." Amr al-Tamimi said, "I will kill Amr ibn al-As." Al-Burak al-Tamimi said, "I'll kill Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan." Abd al-Rahman ibn Muljam said, "I'll kill Ali ibn Abi Talib." Abd al-Rahman ibn Muljam, publicly he was known as Abd al-Rahman. Those who knew him closely would call him Qaddar. Abd al-Rahman ibn Muljam said, "I will kill who? I will kill Ali ibn Abi Talib." Abdul Rahman bin Muljam said, I'll kill Ali ibn Abi Talib. The other two said, we'll kill Muawiyah and Amr ibn al-As. I'll come to destroying that theory. I don't believe the other two went to kill them. And I'll show you why in a second. What happened was, Abdul Rahman bin Muljam now wondered that if I go to Kufa, I'm numbered with Kinda. Kinda aren't going to help me. So I need to find a house that will help me in killing Ali ibn Abi Talib. These are what is the exact description of how Imam died. He went to the house of a tribe, the tribe of Taym. He entered there. He saw the lady who he had been infatuated with for a long time. Who? He saw a lady by the name of Qutam. See how history comes back? The she-camel in the story of Salih. Qaddar killed her because he loved a woman called Qutam. Abdul Rahman bin Muljam's original title is Qaddar, and he loved a woman called Qutam. History repeats itself. She said to him, you've always wanted me as a wife? He said, yes. She said, then I want my dowry. He said, name your price. What's your dowry? She said, 3,000 dirhams. He said, okay. She said, a young servant boy. He said, okay. She said, another servant for the house. He said, okay. She said, Ali ibn Abi Talib dead. He said, how do you expect me to kill Ali ibn Abi Talib? She said, kill Ali ibn Abi Talib when he is at his most careless. In her mind, that means salah. In our mind, this is when he's closest to Allah. You see the difference? He's at his most careless in salah because he's not thinking of anything but Allah. So she said, kill Ali ibn Abi Talib when he's at most careless. He said, but who's going to help me? It's not easy. Ali ibn Abi Talib runs Kufa. How will I kill him? She replied, I'll get Wardan to help you. Wardan was one of the loyal Khawarij. Wardan came to Ibn Muljam. He said, do not worry, I'll help you, but go to the house of Shabib. He went to the house of Shabib. Shabib called him. He said, we'll join together and we'll work on killing Ali. He said, when? He said, Wednesday the 19th of Ramadan. He said, well, how would we know it's the moment? He said, you'll know, and I'll make it clear to you. He said, what will Qatam be doing on that day? He said, I'll make it clear to you. On that day, when it came to the Wednesday, a day before, the narration states, Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam went to Al-Ash'ath ibn Qais. The narration states, sorry, on the same day he went to Al-Ash'ath ibn Qais. But before he went to Qatam. Qatam, what did she do? She said, are you ready for your crime? He said, yes. If it means I'm going to marry you, then I'm ready to kill him. She said, then bring me your chest. Do you know where this Qatam was on that day, brothers and sisters? She was in i'tikaf, in a tent. Because it's the last 10 nights or the last nights of the holy month of Ramadan. So she wants to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I tell you, it's a message for all of us. Sometimes you'll see someone with the garment of religion. He's put one on his head and another on his body, and he's put everything there. You find that they preach to you spirituality and they preach to you about imams and so on. Their heart is full of envy. Their heart is full of hatred. Their heart is full of jealousy. When they see someone more successful than them, what they want to do is they take it out with hatred. In public, of course, every Tom, Dick and Harry today wears a turban. But you find some of them, their heart is full of hatred and malice. To the extent they are willing to go to people and defame people's characters. Qatam was no different. Qatam had built a tent. She said, I'm in i'tikaf. I want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How? By drenching the blood of Ali ibn Abi Talib. She said to him, come here. Came. She wrapped up his chest with some silk cloth. And she said, are you ready for your task? He said, yes, I'm ready. When he was coming towards the mosque of Kufa that morning, he told Al-Ash'ath ibn Qais that I'm ready for my act. Al-Ash'ath said, then hurry up. Hujr bin Adi al-Kindi heard them. Hujr, as soon as he heard, he said, I think you want to kill my master. So he tried to get to Imam Ali's house to warn him. Imam Ali had already gone to the mosque. When Allah wants something to happen, it happens. And what happened was that they had planned it, that when Imam Ali is about to lift his head from the sujood, they will come and strike the holy head of Amir al-Mu'mineen. That's how history repeats itself. Qaddar, Qaddar. Qutam, Qutam. Exactly the same reason. I want to marry a lady, and I want to make sure that if it means I have to kill another human being, I will kill. That's why when Imam passed away, the narrations tell us that when he died, what happened? When he died, he had told Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussein that I want you to bury me in this particular spot. They said, what will we see written there? He said that you will see written there, this is the grave prepared for the servant of Allah, Ali ibn Abi Talib, by the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, as we know, we all know where he is buried. Prophet Nuh alayhi salam is the one who prepared the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. From all that time before, he knew there'd be a day when Imam would be buried there. But people always ask the question, especially on ziyarah. They say when we went to Imam Ali's mosque in Najaf, it's far away from Masjid al-Kufa. You know, it's about a 20-minute journey by bus. So they say, who is it that allowed them to take him all that way? Because we know as well, very well, that why was Ali ibn Abi Talib's grave hidden for so many years? Ali ibn Abi Talib's grave for over 150 years was hidden from the Muslims. For over 100 years in some narrations was hidden from the Muslims. Why? The Khawarij had sworn, if we know where he's buried, we'll take his body out and burn it. So someone asks if Imam al-Hasan, Imam al-Hussein carried their dad's body. How could they carry it that far from Kufa to Najaf? It's because the Imam said, you will see unseen forces who will help carry my body. Because for a man like Amir al-Mu'mineen, the angels carry the front part of his janazah. And Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussein carry the back part of the janazah. On a night like this, that janazah was carried towards that holy land in Najaf. May Allah give patience to our 12th Imam on a night like this when he remembers what happened to Amir al-Mu'mineen. You find history repeats itself in that the Quran said about Abdul Rahman, about the killer of the camel of Salih, إِذٍ بَعَثَ أَشْقَاهَا. Shaqi is the worst of the people. When Amir al-Mu'mineen was struck by Ibn Muljam, Jibreel called out, تهدمت والله أركان الهدى قتل علي المرتضى. And then what did he say? Listen to the lines. قتل أتقى الأتقياء قتله أشقى الأشقياء. The worst of the people killed the best of the people. In the same way the killer of the camel of Salih was called Shaqi, Jibreel announced from the heavens, قتل أتقى الأتقياء قتله أشقى الأشقياء. The narration states to us on a night like this, the orphans of the house of Fatima and Ali, they had been orphans from a young age when their mother Fatima al-Zahra died, and now they were orphans without that father who looked after them all these years. Brothers and sisters, do not forget, Imam al-Hasan, Imam al-Hussein, Sayyidah Zainab, Kulthum were all very young when their mother Fatima died. The only solace they had was that they had a father like Ali ibn Abi Talib. But on a night like this, their father isn't with them, they are alone. Imam al-Hasan narrates that we went to bury our father Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said we took the body of our father and we buried him in a grave. In that grave we saw the writing that this is for the servant of Allah, Ali ibn Abi Talib, from the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. He said we lowered the body of our father into the grave. Normally anyone when they die, they want their family around them. It's very hard if you don't have your family around you when you are being buried. They put their father's body in the grave. On their way back towards the house, they saw a man sitting on the ground. But they saw that this man was crying. Imam al-Hasan came towards him. Imam al-Hussein came next to him. Imam al-Hussein, when he came next to him, he said to him, "Oh man, why is it that you cry?" He replied by saying, "Every night in my life there used to be a man who used to come and feed me. When I'd be
alone, he would come in the middle of the night and he would come and feed me and make me feel like I was a member of his family. Imam al-Hussein said to him, then why is it that you cry? He replied that I cry because for the past 3 nights that man hasn't come next to me to feed me. I wonder what has happened to that man, because the past 3 nights I have felt so lonely. Imam al-Hassan looked at him and he said, that man was my father Ali ibn Abi Talib. Every night he used to come and feed you, but the past 3 nights he hasn't come because Abd al-Rahman ibn Muljam struck him on the top of his head, and because he had struck him, the narration states that it ended up killing him. The narration states that after this had happened, the narrations come forward and state that Imam al-Hussein lowered his father's body. He had already buried him. Why? Because naturally you want to be there to bury your father. You don't want anyone to come near your father's body when you bury him. But Imam Zainul Abidin couldn't bury his father, Imam al-Hussein. No, he saw the horses of Bani Umayyah bury their hooves into the chest of Aba Abdullah. Sayyida Zainab, on the afternoon of the 10th of Muharram, she narrates that I heard a noise, something was breaking outside, but I didn't know what it was. She narrates that I asked Imam Zain al-Abidin, I hear something breaking, I do not know what it is. The narrations mention that Umar ibn Sa'ad, when he saw the bodies lying on the ground in Karbala, he ordered his horses to trample on those holy bodies. He asked them first trample on the body of Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, but Banu Riyah were present. They said, you have killed our son, we do not allow you to trample on his body. He said, trample on the body of Habib. Habib's tribe was present. They said, you've killed our son, we do not allow you to trample on his body. One tribe after another came out to protect the holy bodies. Umar ibn Sa'ad then called out, is there anybody who lies on the ground who doesn't have a tribe to protect him? And they said to him, only one body lies on the ground whose mother and father's tribe are not here to protect him. And they said to him, who? They replied to him, Aba Abdullah. His mother and his father's tribe are not here to protect him. At that moment, Umar ibn Sa'ad called out, O horse riders, ride your horses and trample on the body of Aba Abdullah. And that's why when Sayyida Zainab asked Imam Zain al-Abidin, I hear something that is breaking, but I do not know what it is. Imam Zain al-Abidin replied, oh my auntie Zainab, that is the body of my father Abu Abdullah. The horses of Bani Umayyah are turning his body one way and the other. Their hooves are digging themselves through his holy body. O Fatima al-Zahra, only one of your ribs was broken, whereas they broke all of the ribs of Abu Abdullah.
We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the following dua. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فبلغنا. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us with Muhammad and Al Muhammad, to allow us to be amongst the companions of Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten his reappearance. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to receive the intercession of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Allow us to be amongst those who are granted the ziyarah of Najaf al-Ashraf. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the Surah al-Fatiha, but before it, the loudest of your salawat.